we require that you attend aftercare, an AA or NA program. I'm a huge believer. I have found through my practice, both as a prosecutor, defense attorney, and now as a judge, that it is that every drug treatment program that I see requires a defendant, when they're done, to continue to engage in this. Continue with the 12-step program. We get them to engage in this program early, that is to say when they begin my drug court session. And then the third thing is you must attend every Wednesday from about 2:30 until about 5 or 5:30, and we ask each one of the people who are in the drug court program to essentially stand and report what they've done that week.
I see.
And we question them. Did you make your drug treatment program? Yes. Who did you see? What did you do this week? Explain to the other members who were here, because we have between 20 and 25 people, sometimes more, sometimes a little less, in drug court every week. Explain to them what you learned this week. What kind of problems are you having in drug court? What kind of problems are you having with the drug treatment program? Have you attended your AA and NA meetings? Do you have the list? I want to see that. Do you have a sponsor? Are you working the steps? So those are the minimum things we require them to do, and we require them, each one, to do it for a period of 1 year. Now, here's what's interesting. The people who enter my drug court program are drug and alcohol addicted.
Yeah.
These folks have been using alcohol and drugs for years. There's not anybody who just staggers into my program. Most of these people, and I can tell you, I think all of them, use drugs and have used drugs every single day for months or years before they come into my court. Sometimes multiple drugs, sometimes multiple times a day. These people are in bad shape. So we drug test them in my program every week, and in addition to that, the drug court administrator, Christine Demlow, goes out to their house. She goes out once or twice a week randomly to these people's houses during the day, sometimes during the evening. Knocks on the door. Want you to come out, want you to take a drug test, and then we're going to go through your house, and we're going to make sure that there are no drugs or alcohol in your house. If you test positive, or if there are drugs or alcohol in your house, you're arrested. One of the terms and conditions is you don't have drugs or alcohol in the home. So we have a very, very strict monitoring system, because these people are voluntarily in the program, they want to do this. And we know that you can't live in a house where there are drugs and alcohol and successfully complete the program.
This is an intensive
It really is.
Judge.
It really is.
I even having read through this, and I'm having some cursory knowledge of it, but I didn't realize it. Every Wednesday for a year.
A year. Now, for the first, in addition to that, for the first 30 to 60 days, they must telephone my drug court administrator every morning, and we also, this is kind of neat, we hook the new guys up, the new men and women up, the ones in the first 30, 60, 90 days, with the ones who are in their last 30 or 60, 90 days. These folks know how the program works, and they have, if you can see, if they've lasted 9, 10, 11, 12 months, they've done it successfully, and these people have 9 or 10 or 12 months of sobriety, something these people only dream of. And so we hook them up with each other. So they're making a call to the drug court administrator, they're making calls to 1, 2, and sometimes 3 members of the drug court program themselves, their AA and NA sponsor or NA sponsor, and their drug treatment provider. These people are getting an intensive focus in how to remain sober, how to stay clean, what kinds of things you have to do, what kind of tactics you need to be able to break this cycle, so you don't find yourself back in front of the court again.
Well, intensive is the word. In order for a defendant to participate in this program, Judge, as opposed to standard court procedure, you must have some type of a requirement or requirements. I mean, you won't let it.
It has to be felony 4s or felony 5s. You cannot be a drug trafficker. If you're a drug trafficker, I don't permit you in. If you're selling drugs, you're not necessarily a drug addict. And those offenses, I think, are significantly more harmful and need the scrutiny of the justice system and the court system in a much more aggressive way. If you're a drug addict and an alcoholic, and you're a drug user, and that is to say you're the victim of your crime, that's a little different. Those folks are eligible for my program. The other requirement is that you enter a plea. Now, understand, if you're able to work your way all the way through my program, you don't test positive, you show up at your AA and NA meetings, you complete your drug treatment program, you do the other things that we require that you do for a year, I dismiss your case. Your case is dismissed. And that's a big thing. These are folks who, if they didn't do this, would be felons. You're a felon. That's a big thing, especially now. Imagine you're competing with 100 people for a job.
Sure.
You're the felon. You're not likely to get this job.
Yeah. We had Judge Kimbler on a few weeks ago, and he explained the felony offenses, and so I guess what I'm hearing you saying, hopefully so our viewers follow this, a felony 4 or felony 5 are not nearly
low-level felonies.
They're low-level felonies.
In fact, if you have a trace amount of cocaine, a trace amount of heroin, any controlled substance, heroin, cocaine, psilocybin, crack, anything except marijuana that is a controlled substance, even a minuscule amount, a trace amount, that's a felony. The mere possession of that is a felony.
I see.
When you reach a certain level, it's not a low-level felony 5. It could be a 3 or 2 or even a 1, depending on how much. But usually, if you're a drug addict or a drug user, you have very small amounts, and these small amounts are what qualifies you for the lower-level drug possession felonies. By the way, the court systems are essentially overwhelmed with these cases. These are the huge numbers of cases, are the lower-level possession cases. And these are the people who are usually the drug addicts. These are the people who are usually the alcoholics at this level. Rarely do we get the Cali cartel driving through Medina County. We get small amounts of traffickers, and again, those people aren't eligible, but mostly we get low-level possessors. Okay. And those are the ones who we're truly trying to target. Because if I can get those folks to live a life that is clean and sober, those are people who won't be committing these crimes.
Absolutely.
That's really what we're focusing on.
In these tough economic times, many programs are in jeopardy. I mean, our state budget, I think, is just come out, and it's showing a lot of cuts, and I suppose a lot of good programs are being cut. But your drug court appears to be administered for very modest costs, Judge. I mean, how do you do that?
It's because it is essentially a personal commitment from my drug court administrator and the court and me. Christine Demlow was my secretary. I found I can type really well. I can do my own typing. Yeah. Answer my phones most of the time, a lot of the time.
Oh yeah, I've called where you
there you go.
The phone.
And I can type real well. And I'm utilizing her skills to essentially run this program. She has 30 to 35 people in drug court at any given time, and a lot of them take a lot of hand-holding and a lot of attention. And so what I've done is I've shifted her from being my secretary to being my drug court administrator as well, and that is essentially her full-time position. In addition to that, and as a result of that, there's no additional cost. She doesn't cost any more than she did when she was my secretary. I just moved her slot over, and I'm essentially doing my own typing. Second thing is it takes just my attention every Wednesday, and then we meet every morning. Christine and I meet every morning to talk about what went on that day, any reports on any of the people, what about the drug test. We deal with a lot of other issues that they have, but usually I would say half an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour a day, just reports from these people, because this is I think very important part of what I do. I think it's the most interesting thing I do, and I have to tell you, when I first started the program, I thought after I put it in place, the last thing I'd want to do is spend 3 hours a week, 4 hours a week with drug addicts. I will tell you that I am really surprised. I love it. It is so exciting. It's so interesting. We've had spectacular successes, and we've had spectacular failures. The people who lapse back into using again, but what I'm so impressed with is how hard they're working, and what a struggle it is, and the human spirit desire to overcome this thing and to become a good husband or a wife, a good employee, a good citizen, and a desire to live a clean life. When you start to see it, it's amazing. Let me tell you one more thing, because I think I want to give you a flavor for this. The first 30 or 60 or 90 days, when you have stopped using, and they all know their date, my sobriety date is July 4th, 2009. They know it, right? For the first 30 or 60 or 90 days, they're a mess. I mean, they're really a mess. Again, understand, they've been using almost every day. So we really focus very, very aggressively with regard to them during that period of time. They need a lot of help. You can begin to see, I can begin to see, and anyone can if they sit and watch, they become much more clear in their thinking because the toxicity of their bodies is changing, right?
Yeah.
The chemistry is changing. Their desires are changing. After 30 or 60 or 90 days, these folks are beginning to realize that they can live a life. It's going to be hard, but live a life free of